Hi, Sally Ann here. Today, in recognition of Dietitians Week Australia, I'm joined by Laureate Professor Clare Collins. Welcome, Claire.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Claire, I'm really excited about our conversation today. Claire brings over 40 years of experience in nutrition and dietetics and is recognised globally for her work, ranked among the top 1% of the world's most cited scientists. She's published hundreds of research papers, helped train many dietitians, and has been honoured with an Officer of the Order of Australia and the NH and MRC Elizabeth Blackburn Leadership Award. But what I really value about Claire's work is her focus on helping people eat well in ways that are practical, sustainable, and realistic. So today we're exploring how healthy eating can truly work in real life, including when you're on a budget. But Claire, before we dive into our conversation, I'd love to start by asking what led you into dietetics and the work you're doing today?
Oh, Sally, that's an easy question to answer because I've had a one-track mind ever since I was a teenager. And I remember way back at school, before there was careers advice, we had a teacher just took it on himself to give it to us anyway. And, I remember with his English accent, the girls fold your page in half, and on the left, we had to write down our best subjects, and on the right, we had to write down the subjects we loved the most. And for me, science was always my best subjects, but I actually really loved old-fashioned home science that doesn't even exist anymore. It was cooking, sewing. It was essentially technical drawing like pattern making and sewing for girls. And so that set me on a mission. His advice, find something that combines both. And in the career book up in the library, I only made it to page D, dietitian. Must be good at science, must want to help people improve their life by eating better. And I thought, aha. So I didn't even turn to E. I don't even know what E was. I suppose it was probably an electrician. And then and I can honestly say I've never regretted doing dietetics. Like back in the day, you had to do the science degree first. So that was always a pressure. Like, will I get into dietetics, this one track mind I've been on? But I decided I'd be happy to be a science teacher if I couldn't get into the course. So it's really basically from there. And what I love about our profession, Sally, is that you can have this qualification that takes you on so many different journeys. Back then, pretty much the only option or the main option was to be a dietitian who worked in the hospitals. And that's what I did initially. But, like all doors open up and all the way science has developed our field has meant there are so many opportunities for people who want to study nutrition and dietetics these days.
Oh, you're so right. And as you were talking, the first thing that come to mind is, how forward thinking your teacher was at school,
Mm.
to combine not only what you're good at, but what you're really passionate about. So I kind of didn't get that entry into dietetics. I actually worked for a couple of years and was sitting at my desk at work, and I was starting to vision the periodic table. So I was
Oh,
sitting at my
really?
desk, and I'm thinking, I think it might be time to change.
Yeah.
So mine kind of wasn't as direct as yours, but yeah, I had done some other sort of certificate courses in nutrition and fitness while I was working, and I thought, yes, this is definitely
Time to change.
yeah, where I want to go. And I think also too, you mentioned, and I'm sure we'll touch on it again, dietitians, we work in so many different areas. And I know myself, I've been fortunate to work in research as well as management and yeah, even outside of, mainstream career areas we think of for a dietitian. So yes, our skills take us many places. But I suppose one thing that always fascinated me about food was that there's so much information out there. And I know as a
Yeah.
teenager, young adult, it was really confusing to know what to actually believe. And how do we go about making sense of all that noise out there so we can eat well and also balance it with what we're doing in life because we're busy and we also have financial constraints to consider as well in terms of how we're spending our money. So, are healthy foods really more expensive, or do we just perceive that they are? Do they just feel that way?
Well, there's a yes and no to that question. And the challenge is that the basic foods are cheaper, but the challenge is that when you match for convenience, they're more expensive.
Yes.
So that's the real kicker. So the challenge about saving money can mean you need to spend more time cooking. So we did a research study. It was called a feeding trial, where we were doing a scientific experiment. We were collecting blood samples and collecting urine samples because we wanted to measure all these little tiny biochemical compounds that come out in both urine and plasma. And we wanted to feed people the healthiest dietary pattern possible. And then we wanted to feed them the current average Australian diet, actually is unhealthy. But we decided we should match them on convenience, because we thought if we can't give people the food, if we make them cook the healthy meals from scratch, maybe they won't eat it. So we matched them on convenience, and we actually found that when you had to go to the supermarket and find like a healthy roast dinner, for example, that on average the cost was double.
Yeah.
So that was a real eye-opener for us, and a real reflection then on, well, how do we help people make over the meals, make them a bit healthier, but also faster to prepare and more convenient? And I think one of the challenges is that when you think of cooking, you tend to think, oh yeah, cooking's MasterChef, but it's actually not. It can be as simple as assembly serve, and that is the key to saving money. And then the other thing that I think comes up for people when they're at the supermarket is that if that's once a week you go to the supermarket or once a fortnight, you part with a lot of money in one shop. So you tend to go, this is a lot of money, groceries are too expensive, but we don't keep in our brain all the taps, the tap, tap. If you've got two adults in a household, both just having one coffee each a week, and lots of people have more than one, you could be spending $70 to $100 a week just on takeaway coffee. And then the other thing is when you're purchasing petrol, if you can afford it these days, is, all of those chocolate bars, you've got to reach over and they say, oh, there's double points or 3 for the price of 2. And then, of course, all the Uberoos that can show up at your door when everyone gets home and they're too tired. We definitely think there's a way forward. We have shown and demonstrated that people can save money, but the key thing is you have to think about it before you get to that point of no return where you go, that's it, we're just getting home delivery and it's too late, you've already tapped, but dinner was already actually in the freezer in the pantry.
Yes. And I'm glad you've raised those points because I find that with my clients as well, Claire. And when I first piloted my Foundations Mindful Eating program, I had a component, like a workbook on making time, making time for yourself, making time for your health, making time to complete the coaching program, but making time for meal preparation, basically, and planning your meals. Because if we don't have the healthy food there and ready to go, then we'll grab something quick, whether it's something less nutritious at home. We just put together maybe a sandwich with not all of the greens and other protein fillers we'd love to see in a sandwich, or as you said, we'll order takeout. And what I found when I piloted the program was that all the women said to me, Sally-Ann, we actually want that time management module at the front, because I think just as we're not always aware of where our money's going, we're not always aware where our time is going as well.
Yeah.
And it was amazing for some women, especially working women with kids, they're trying to fit 38 hours into 24 hours and wondering why they're on that treadmill all the time, feeling like they're never getting anything done or not getting all the important things done. So it's an eye-opener too in terms of how we actually spend our time.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to consider. And the other thing I looked at before our call today was, just that price difference too. Sometimes we're encouraging people to buy pre-washed salad in bags or pre-chopped vegetables. And of course, they're also more expensive. So I know we're going to move on to ways to make healthier food simpler, quicker, and more affordable. So I'll, leave some of those tips until then. So moving on to saving money and I suppose time, because we've raised that already, what sort of foods and meal preparation should we be looking at to help us achieve spending less money, but also not feeling like we're spending hours in the kitchen? Because I'll say right up front, I love food, but I cook very simple and quick foods, or I
Oh, right.
batch cook. So
Okay. Well, I love food, but I love cooking as well. And
yes.
for me, it's kind of a relaxation.
Yeah.
So it can become a relaxation. So
Mm.
one of the things that you can do to make it more pleasant is to also like listen to a podcast, listen to old fashioned music. Sunday afternoons, there's always old music or a playlist. Yeah, or even I used to listen to this radio play that I loved, but it was so inconvenient. But they replayed it in a row on a Sunday afternoon. So that was my keeping. But what I was going to say, I think the first thing is like discussing this at your household. Like everybody whose meals come out of the same budget needs to be part of the conversation. And I think if you start with no expectation of yourself, other than having an what I would call an amnesty week, where you get out all the credit cards and just add up the taps. So every time I look at, the polls that have measured how much do people spend in the supermarket, it's actually around $90 a head. But we, in general, spend, at least 50% or more than that on food outside the home. So you need to look at what your whole household budget is. So a few years back, we gave ourselves a challenge. We thought, okay, well, if the average per head is $90 a week at the supermarket, how much could you spend? How little could you spend, but still get enough vitamins and minerals? So you're getting all your vitamin C, all your dietary fiber, not too much sodium, it's low in saturated fat. And back then we created a $55 a week meal plan.
Mm.
2 weeks, 1 week for the carnivores, 1 week for the vegetarians, just purely as an exercise, what would you have to eat? We've updated that to $60. We know with cost of living, it's more like $65 per head. And you'll find that on our website called No Money, No Time. And it's actually, Sally Ann, it's the most hitted on, clicked on webpage. And like I said, it's not designed to be prescriptive. It's just really designed to give you some ideas. So first up, just a judgment-free recording and audit of all the credit cards so you can start to look at what money you have available. And then it's sometimes for some people, it's like, wow, if we didn't have Uber, Uber Eats or Deliveroo, if we weren't spending $30 plus, and the average, last time I looked it up, people who actually use those apps was more like $70 a week on delivery fees. If you weren't doing that, you could actually buy some more premium ingredients that don't need the cooking, like salmon, which is delicious and super easy, but it is expensive, like at $40 a kilo. So that's what I would say. That's the first thing. And in that same week, just write down, like the diary that you suggested, what you're having for meals and snacks. And then that's the entree then into planning how you're going to test out whether it works to plan your whole week ahead. So that's the number one tip. And then I've already mentioned that we have a website called No Money, No Time. And the whole objective of that is to help you make healthier food faster and cheaper at home. We've got lots of recipes that can be filtered based on special dietary needs, whether somebody's has food allergies, and also on motivators, trying to get healthy, trying to get better skin, trying to do better in sport.
Mm.
But then we have a series of resources, and one of those is actually then the meal planner. So again, I think in that first week or two, it's not about going, oh no, we didn't stick to having spaghetti bolognese tonight. We've made a homemade pizza. It's more about like the ideas and how could that evolve over time? Because what you'll find happens is that you'll probably discover, wow, spaghetti bolognese was already lurking between the pantry, the freezer, and the fridge. You could actually make that if only you'd known you had all those ingredients. And the other thing that it allows you to do is you go, well, why make enough for one? I'm going to make enough for two and put half my bolognese sauce in the freezer. And I would encourage people that, everyone has one night where it's crazy. It's like the front door is a revolving door. And that's the night, where you can pull from the freezer. So it's no cooking as such. It's really reheating. So they're just a couple of initial basic tips anyway.
I love those. And again, what I find with my focus on mindfulness, you're quite right. Families and individuals don't necessarily know what they're eating through the day over the week. And what I find in our household too is that you have your favourite meals and you say, yes, I'm happy to have those, once a week or once a fortnight. Then there might be some seasonal changes as well. But certainly cooking those, as I call liquid meals, or the sauces, the casseroles, the curries, and batch them so you do have that second serving or that second meal for later in the week or the following week, it does make life a lot easier. You've just got to remember to take it out of the freezer. And of course, what happens as well, I'm often surprised, and this is what we forget with skills around food and preparing food, is that shopping list is so important as well.
Yeah.
And once you're starting to look at those in-season foods that are a good price that you enjoy, getting an idea of meal planning is having that shopping list ready to go, but also checking what you've got in the pantry
Yeah.
and the fridge before you go, because I have to put my hand up here. I've been guilty of going out and buying something that I've already got. And that's generally been on an occasion where I've been away and I'm coming home and I've done a shop without actually doing a proper shopping list. So that's really important as well.
Yeah, I would agree. And I tend to keep a running shopping list. I use that up and then I write it down
Yeah,
there.
too.
I know my daughter, she's got a fridge where you can stick a magnet. I got one of those annoying fridges where it won't actually stick. And
Likewise.
she keeps a running tally on there. And I
Mm,
think that does really help. And
mm,
another useful way of saving money is then, how sometimes your freezer gets a little bit frosty and you're not even quite sure what's in some of those containers. And that's a good strategy if you're coming up to a period of time like Easter or whether it's Christmas where you're going to be wanting to stock up because of celebrations or whatever.
yeah.
Give yourself a week off in the weeks leading up to that by trying to use up everything that's there, you know, taking it out, see if you can remember what was in there and using it up. And again, like you can basically have a holiday from cooking. For many people, at least a couple of nights. If you've
Mm,
got a deep freezer, you might get weeks of cooking just by working down, like using up all of the things that are already in your freezer.
mm,
So one of the other key things for saving money though is there's a big emphasis on protein at the moment, and
mm,
especially plant protein.
mm,
But a lot of this is through marketing and advertising.
mm,
But you can plant proteinify anything you want by adding in a can of any of the beans or lentils. So they're mostly next door to the canned tomatoes, not in every supermarket, but that's often where you'll find them. They're regularly on special for like a dollar something.
mm,
Average price is probably more like $1.50. And
mm.
it's interesting that at least for one of the major supermarkets, their own brand is the one with less salt as
Uh-huh.
well.
Yeah.
So that's a really convenient way. We had one research student come and work with us who's from Africa, and she was saying how easy we have it in Australia because back home, where they have a very plant-based diet and they use lots of legumes, so lentils, all the different types of beans, said you couldn't get canned beans. They were unusual and certainly not as cheap. And so she was saying, wow, you've got it so easy.
Mm,
They would have to think 2 days ahead because you have to soak the beans. So canned beans, canned vegetables, just go for the low salt ones.
mm,
Keeping packets of frozen veggies in the freezer.
mm,
It's just more that with frozen, like they're often picked and frozen snap fresh virtually. The processing plants are usually near where those vegetables are growing. And so that's a really easy way. It's just sometimes it's different taste or texture to fresh, but you don't have to feel guilty about using
no.
canned and frozen, and they're a really easy way. And I think if you've got kids or teenagers in your house, and if we go back to our favorite old spaghetti bolognese, the easiest way to double the volume of that is to add like a can of brown lentils, at least one can of tomatoes, maybe two,
Yeah.
and then to also add some of the beans, like whether it's red kidney beans, that makes it a bit more Mexican type sauce,
Mm,
or whether you add some of the others like black eyed peas or any of those. And with the chickpeas, which are the white beans, I find they tend to go better with like a chicken curry type dish.
mm,
And it doesn't really matter. It's really about experimenting. And when you first start, just don't tell the family. Like the little brown lentils and the dried red lentils, they virtually disappear. So you end up with the double batch but with the same amount of mince in it, and just put one straight in the freezer so that they don't wolf it down, with midnight snacks or end up taking it for lunch and you were going to get a night off cooking.
I'm glad, Claire, you mentioned protein because that's where I see too, with some of the diet fad we've gone through with the emphasis on protein, and some of it has been more meat-based protein, which is very expensive. But the plant protein, I'm actually a vegetarian eater, so I'm preparing lentils and legumes all the time, but I also keep the canned varieties as well.
Yeah.
And if you're wanting to do a batch cook up of, say, chickpeas, you can actually cook them and then freeze them. So
Yeah, great.
your dried lentils and legumes are the cheapest form, even though, as you said, the canned ones, especially on sale, are a bargain. But you can actually cook them ahead and then freeze them and then cook them again. So that's really good. And I love that tip about turning maybe, a spaghetti bolognese into more of a Mexican sauce. I like to do that with my curries and my lentil sauces as well. So they're really great. So understanding food and nutrition and how we can make it sustainable is one thing, but putting it into practice is another. How do you see the role, especially of dietitians, in helping individuals and families actually achieve that?
Well, one key thing is I think the resources that we provide through No Money, No Time.
Yes.
And then for dietitians, it's ensuring that, what we're recommending is culturally adapted and adapted for those special needs. There's many households who have people with multiple but different types of dietary needs. So that's why the recipes on the No Money, No Time website, as I said earlier, we have put the filters for allergies, but we've also put the filters for cooking equipment. So one of the things that became obvious to us in developing that website, where we interviewed a lot of young people who were mainly renters, household renters, and they pointed out to us that ovens never work in rental properties. And so we have that you can select the appliances you need. Now, another reason for selecting the appliances is helping you save on electricity. And in recent years, we've actually boosted, in response to people sending us information, we've boosted the number of air fryer recipes, or we've been going back adding how to save time or not turn your oven on by including the methods for using an air fryer. So some of the air fryers are now pretty inexpensive. I remember testing one that when it was still like an experimental product and they were like $370 and that was like back around 2010.
Yes.
And now the last one I bought a glass one because I didn't want to have any, on the anti-plastic, and it was $90. It's
Yes.
just unbelievable. And I can't believe how rapidly that is saving time as well. So that just makes me think of another really great air fryer tip, actually, especially for vegetarians or even not vegetarians. This is a challenge now for people is tofu is soy protein,
Yeah.
and you can cook that in the air fryer. You can brown that in the air fryer. No need to fry it. It takes between 10 and 15 minutes. And you can brown that. And next time you're making like an Asian stir fry, there's your protein. And, that was something that I never used to really use that much, but now I have it regularly because it's just so easy. You can keep a packet in the fridge, or if someone turns up and you suddenly got to do a bigger meal, or you go, wow, I've got all these veggies that could be stir fried. You can just throw some tofu in there.
Yeah, I love that one. I actually haven't invested in an air fryer yet, but it is something that I am going to follow up, and I like the idea of that glass one that you mentioned, Claire. I'll be on the
Just
lookout.
Google it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will. I will. I will.
so you can get them inexpensive. And yeah, a lot of young people have said that in their household, someone's parent or loved one's given one of the household members an air fryer. And then that's really sort of come to the rescue. Mind you, one of our team members, Roberta Asher, she's also a chef.
Yes.
So we have recipes of like how you can make a pizza on a sandwich toaster, like a
Yes.
sandwich press.
Yes.
So you don't always have to use the oven.
Yes.
So if you've got young people at your place, I would encourage them to work out what's their favorite go-to meal. And then you're doing them a favor. Another resource that we have is a leaving home guide, because I think, we've got to remember that kids don't really learn how to cook.
No.
They might do one term of cooking and they probably made chocolate brownies.
Mm.
So bringing your kids in on one of the meals, and that can also be a bargaining point. Like if, let's say their favorite meal is pizza. Okay, we're going to look at how we can make a pizza at home,
Yeah.
and you can make a pizza with pretty much any leftovers. And pizza base is from the freezer. So there's lots of different types available in the supermarket,
Yeah.
or you can just use different breads, Lebanese bread or wraps, whatever people like, whether they like it thicker or thinner.
Mm.
So I think sometimes we forget about that negotiation with the other people at our place, and they don't have to be fancy. Like a basic, easy meal, like let's say you haven't got to the weekly shopping yet,
Yeah.
a barbecue chicken, you can walk through the supermarket and get, a lettuce can just be a regular cos. Sometimes they're $2 at the moment.
Yeah.
Avocados were $1 this week.
Mm.
A
Yeah.
tub of cherry tomatoes, the ones that have got to be used by tomorrow, they're often discounted.
Yeah.
And you've got the basis of a salad.
Yeah.
And an interesting way with the iceberg lettuce, which is, like once upon a time when I was a child, that was the only kind of lettuce you could
Ah,
buy.
like
But if you
me.
you can slice that in wedges, throw everything over the top. It actually makes them eat more lettuce because they've got to take a wedge. And we've got a recipe for this item that uses up leftover. It's called salad crunch.
Yes.
When your bread's going, it's close to going stale, not quite. If you just break it in chunks, brown it up, rummage wherever you keep your nuts and seeds, throw some of those in, brown them all up,
Mm.
then cut the lettuce that needs to be used up in wedges, throw all that other stuff over, top the salad crunch. You've probably got some mayonnaise or salad dressing that also needs to be drizzled over the top. And honestly, they'll think it's MasterChef. And it's so yummy and so plain
Yes.
underneath just the way you've, masqueraded using up leftovers. So I think it's being brave to try it on the days
Yeah.
when you're not too busy.
Yes.
Because when you're too busy, for many households, it's like, the chaos hour. We just got to get this food done and then
Yeah.
get the dishes done and then probably back out in the car, pick somebody up or drop somebody off.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of those, Claire, because I think also because we work in food, we kind of understand what needs to go together. So if you're still listening along today and thinking, oh, I still don't know really how much vegetable, how much meat, or, I've just found out I've got diabetes, this is where actually having a consult with a dietitian as
Oh,
well
yeah.
can be really helpful. And also, you might be listening and saying, yeah, I kind of know a lot of this, but I'm just not doing it. So, again, dietitians can help not just with your knowledge about food, but we actually work with you to actually start making small, sustainable changes.
Yeah.
And, get rid of that whole idea of overnight makeovers of your kitchen, of yourself, all of that sort of stuff. It's about making little changes at
Yeah.
a time. And it's the same, with introducing lentils and legumes. That can be something you can do gradually in the family. You just don't want to take them from meat eaters to being purely vegetarian.
No, because they'll figure that out with all
That's
the,
right. That's right.
all the gastrointestinal symptoms. If you triple your fiber intake overnight,
Yes.
everyone will be complaining. Yes,
Oh,
spring it on them.
I did that at university, Claire. I remember we had to go through, and you may have done this as well. We had to go through and actually eat all of the therapeutic diets that we were learning as dietitians. And I remember a girlfriend of mine, we shared on campus and obviously both studying dietetics, and we got gung-ho to the vegetarian. Yes, well, we did experience all of those symptoms of bloating and distension and so forth. So, yes, some things we have to
Yeah.
go very
Yeah.
carefully with.
Yeah.
And if you've been saying, oh, I want to, visit this website that Claire's been talking about, I'll make sure the link to that
Yeah,
website
that would be great.
is with the show notes. So please don't worry if you're trying to write all this down, you'll be able to visit that website.
Yeah.
I've been on there, Claire. It's a fabulous resource, and certainly I'll be, sharing it with my clients as well because, it's just got a lot of useful information and really
Yeah, really useful
Mhm.
information. All the hacks and myths. And Sally Ann, in the top right-hand corner is the healthy eating quiz.
Yes.
And I talk about the website a lot, but
Yeah.
it's a screening tool. So
Yes.
if people do the healthy eating quiz
Mm.
and their personal report comes back with a lot of red or even the red and yellow because we use a traffic light scale,
Yes.
I suggest people print that off and take it with them when they go to the dietitian,
Yes.
because then they'll have some very specific areas where it'll help them think about or which of those subscales are more important for their health
Yes.
condition. But
Yes.
I completely agree, and I don't think we stand up enough for ourselves and recommend, or other people don't stand up for our profession.
Yeah.
There's so much that dietitians can do, and like 4 or 5 years at university specialized to help people improve their nutrition related health and well-being, that
Yes.
it's a really good investment in your health.
Yeah, and look, I'm still surprised today, and I've been practicing for over 30 years, that just in a simple conversation, whether it's a free strategy call that I offer, if people don't know what support they want or which way to go, I offer a free call. And just in chatting, I'll uncover some things that have been happening for them. Because dietitians, I was reflecting on what we actually do. We're not just about food, we're actually eating habit and lifestyle coaches in many ways, because we are one profession that sees the impact of all the different choices people make in their day on how they eat, because that's what we're trained to do. And, whether it's a medication that's clashing with a supplement, whether it's a supplement that's causing constipation, whether it's a change in
Yeah.
medication that's caused sleep disturbances, it all comes out because this is what dietitians are trained to do. We're trained to look at what is happening for you, what are your challenges, and what is it that maybe someone else has missed because they're not looking at that sort of minute detail of how your day and your choices in your day impact on what you eat. So, like I said, it still amazes me today after practicing for so long what comes up in either a proper dietetic consult, in my coaching programs, or even the free calls. So, of course, I'll share my contact details with these notes. But Claire, is there anything else that you would like to share on sustaining healthier eating, making healthier eating simpler and, of course, affordable as well?
I think if people do have a health condition,
Mm.
then committing to a trial of healthier dietary advice as an experiment on themselves.
Yeah.
And I think, you mentioned that you do have like an awareness. We also have one, a food and mood diary. I think if people spend that time initially to reflect on how they're feeling, how's their blood pressure, how's their cholesterol or their blood sugars, whatever the reason their doctor might be referring them, or they're choosing to come,
Yes.
commit to it like an experiment.
Yeah.
Initially 6 weeks, how are you feeling? I think people will be surprised at how much better they're feeling in a relatively short period of time
Yeah.
when they focus on improving their nutrition-related health. It's kind of like a secret weapon that I think we've got to shout about a lot more so that people do feel better in themselves. Plus, we can help them with that saving money and time.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And it just reminded me of something. I had a period of my time working at a health retreat. And of course, a health retreat is a very different situation to making changes in your usual lifestyle with everything else you have to juggle. People would be with us for 5 to 7 days or longer. Even within 5 days, people felt better. Their energy had settled. Of course, we were supporting them. We were providing all the food.
Yeah,
There were meditation, relaxation, also other outdoor activities. So everything was there for them to do, and they had a personalized plan. So it's true. If we can support our body, we can look at those changes over time. And when you were talking about that research sort of test on ourselves, in the practice of mindfulness, we talk a lot about curiosity. It's about opening up to, how is my body feeling? Oh, what happens if I change my breakfast? What happens? What happens if I maybe stop eating earlier in the evening? Do I sleep better? And I think it's a lovely way to take the pressure off as well. Certainly, yes, we need to make some food choice changes and some, maybe other lifestyle changes to get the full benefit of feeling healthier. But just doing it slowly, one thing at a time, and taking notice is really important. We're here as healthcare practitioners and researchers to support you, but ultimately, it's the individual who knows how they feel in their body, how their energy
yeah.
level is, how motivated they feel, and all of those things. So I love that suggestion of, yeah, just take that time and do a bit of an experiment on
Yeah.
yourself because
Be a
it's
fly on
well.
the wall in your own life.
Definitely. Claire, I really love that. I'll make sure your website is available for people. And we've probably covered this off, but if someone wanted to get started today, what could you suggest? Obviously, they could visit your website.
Yeah.
No
You
time,
can
no.
visit the website and take the healthy eating quiz
Yeah,
because I think it includes population normative data.
yes,
So you'll get your score and it'll compare you to other men or women same age as you. And that'll give you an idea whether or not you need to start. And I think it will give people an idea whether or not they feel like they need to get that extra professional support.
yeah.
When you sign up, it does lead you to some self-suggestion strategies, but I think that's a start. And then just enjoy diving through all the resources and all of the hacks and myths. And I think you'll find we've got a lot of those
Yeah.
nutrition controversies covered in the topics we've got on the website.
Yes, and on the Eating For You website as well, there's quite a few blog posts. My focus is very much on mindful eating and living. But what I wanted to say too, which I think is really important in the context of today's conversation, is that we can have knowledge and sometimes we just need some help to change our behaviours. You know, knowledge does not change eating habits. And I think this is something that's been great that's come out of the research as well, because a lot of people will say to me, oh, I know what to do, Sally Ann, but I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
And that can help explain why. Look, some of us can go and do some self-help stuff and get it done. So I really love that that's available on the No Money, No Time website as well for you to try. But if you try it and you're still not quite hitting the mark, then do ask for some support.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny how when it comes to food, we think we should be able to just do it. Like even famous tennis players still have lessons, they still have coaches. So
Yes.
it's like I said earlier, I think using the dietitian as your nutrition coach and your secret weapon is really underutilized.
Yes. Claire, thanks again for sharing with us today. I know our listeners are going to find this really inspiring, I think, and hopeful that there are resources available to help us navigate nutrition, the costs, but also starting to make some changes to our behaviour as well. So I'll make sure the website's there in the notes. And if you want to reach out to me, if you've got a question or you're looking for some support, my contact details will be there as well. So if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it on your social media pages. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And I look forward to sharing with you again next week.